Hey everybody, this is She Never Misses, and today we have a very interesting video for all of you. Right beside me on the floor over here, you can't see it right now, but I have my Finfolk Productions fabric tail with me that I ordered last year and got at the end of last summer. If you haven't seen my unboxing or first swim video, you can probably find it in the cards or in the description linked somewhere. And now I have swam in it in pools, in ponds, and in the ocean, so I feel like it's a good time to finally put a review out for all of you who might be curious about that. So now let's talk about the fit. I would say that this tail fits me really well. I got a size large and it goes up to just under my belly button for the most part. And it generally stays where it's supposed to stay. It doesn't fall down all that much. The waistband might roll down a little bit sometimes, but it's not that big a deal. And then in the legs and everything, it's pretty tight. In a good way. It stays where it's supposed to stay, and there's not a lot of extra junk, flapping around in here, extra fabric flapping around. And so that's pretty good. The only place where I feel like it might be a little bit off is around the ankles. Sometimes I feel like the fit is a little bit off there, but really I think that the fit on these is pretty good, and if you order the size that you think that you'll need and you've taken your measurements, then it should fit pretty okay. Next, let's move on to the quality. So this is made of neoprene. It has an elastic waistband, and the quality of the fabric overall I feel like is pretty good. It does tend to crease a little bit, but I also don't store it flat, so that's bound to happen, and usually the creases all come out if you just lay it flat for a couple hours, like the instruction sheet that they'll send you says to do, so that's not a really big deal. There haven't been any places really that I've found that the color has scraped off at all, or the fabric has become rougher to the touch than it was initially, which is good. The main problems that I would say exist with the fabric is that it stains really easily. There is a trunk that I have that I keep a lot of my things in at school when I'm there, and I rested this tail on top of the trunk for a while because I didn't have time to put it away in the way that I normally would when I was there, and it got this line of rust or whatever dirt patina is on the top of the steamer trunk on the metal barrier, and I didn't notice it right away. I thought it wasn't doing anything to the tail, so I left it there, and it did leave a line. I can't really see it from where I'm sitting. It's not a big line, but if you go up close to it, you can definitely see that there is a line there on the fluke from where it was resting on the trunk. And I have swam in it several times since then and rinsed it off and tried to get it off, but it hasn't come off so far. I haven't tried wetsuit soap, so I might try that at some point, and it may or may not come off, I don't know. But I also know that after the first time I swam in it, I swam in it in a pond, so you can see in the video, and when I opened the fluke up unzipped it to rinse that out afterwards, there were some like brown, like dirt spots on the inside of the fluke that definitely would have stayed there if I hadn't spent a long time scrubbing them, right, you know, when it happened. So that's something to keep in mind about at least this version of the tail. This is also a second generation tail. They may have improved on several of these things that I'm telling you about since then. I don't know. So, but the biggest problem I see with it isn't really the fabric, it's the stitching. Like, let's see, this is the tag that comes in the back. And as you can see, this one that says the sizing on it is like barely attached. It's attached on one side by the stitching here. This came off like this after the first time I swam in it. I'm surprised I haven't lost the thing. I have to stitch it back in. So that came loose right away, which was something that was a little bit concerning to me. And then along the waistband, I maybe am a little bit rough with it. I try and be pretty good about it, but you know, I at least don't have long nails, so that's a plus. There are a few spaces on the waistband where the stitches have ripped out. There's two right there, and then one like loose stitch there. I'll send you, I won't send you. I will put in close-ups of these things that I'm talking about later, because obviously you can't see them, especially on the fluke. The fluke is another section where the stitching has come out. In like the most considerable amount of stitching coming out is on the fluke, and I feel like that has to do with the monofin that I use partly. I use the Finis Shooter Monofin for this tail, and I feel like maybe aside from the Linden Adult Monofin, I don't know how that one performs. This one is probably the best monofin to use with this tail. The foil is definitely not big enough, and other people I've seen online that have those have said that they've been a problem, and I just think that the shooter is what you should use. And the Mahina, you can't fit it in most of the tails, and the ones you can, it stretches out the stitching, which will, you know, not be helpful considering the stitching is already a problem. So I would recommend the shooter. But the thing about the shooter is that the sides of it are very, very sharp. So taking it in and out of the tail, you have to be very careful, and even then, like swimming in it, wherever it rubs against the fabric would be an issue. And I mean, they do have the plastic insert on the inside to, you know, keep its shape and everything, but the edges where those do not cover, or where the monofin might slide while you're swimming, it might cut there, and also like taking it in and out is a little bit difficult. But let me just show you, or pull it up so I can look at it and then put in a close-up for you later. So this is on this side. Yeah, so we're on the side where the zipper is, where you put the monofin in. There are drainage holes in this tail, but I'm not sure if there was meant to be one there. There was not meant to be one there. So this is just a hole that has come open in the tail. Since I've gotten it, there is not a similar hole on the other side. This is the side with the zipper where I've been putting the monofin in, and the stitching here has just entirely come off from me trying to slip the monofin in there. But it is, you know, an extra drainage hole, so I might keep it, I don't know. But I might have to stitch that back up at some point, because it's just going to get bigger and more of a problem. So, like, the stitching could use some work on these tails, is what I'll say. So those are the quality things with it. Overall, I feel like the fabric is pretty good quality. I know that some people have said that they have problems with this generation of tail specifically with the fabric, but so far, aside from some faulty stitching or just me being too rough, I don't know, but aside from the stitching, it's been pretty good quality-wise for what I've used it for, which is just swimming for fun and taking videos of it. Alright, so now let's get on to the most important part, arguably, which is the swimming part. The swimming in this with the Shooter Monofin, I might do a separate review on the Shooter Monofin itself at some point, because how this feels swimming kind of depends on how that feels on your foot. But swimming in this, it is doable. I get my tail on in the water, which is a little bit difficult, but you just roll it down, have the monofin already in it, and then stick your feet in and pull it up. The thing with swimming is that the even though this generation of Finfolk tail has drainage holes that are meant to be there, not just ones that the monofin makes, like right here, here's a drainage hole, and there's 1, 2, there's another one. I can stick my thumbs in them, well, my fingers, but maybe not my thumbs, and then 3, 4, 5, I think there's 6 total on this fluke that are meant to be there. And it doesn't bubble up as much as the first generation ones I've seen do. That being said, they still do bubble up a lot. I try and be very careful when I get into the tail, or before I do, to make sure the fluke gets wet, and then squeeze to try and get some of the water out. But when you're swimming, more water will just come in, and I've definitely been able to feel drag from the amount of water in the fluke that's just not passing through. And I feel like these drainage holes are of a decent size, so I don't know that adding more or making them bigger would help. If Finfolk was to take, for their plastic inserts, 2 little other dots and like raised bumps and put them right next to where the drainage holes are, I feel like that could definitely help hold them open, because I feel like they are, just basically holes in the seam and where the water is supposed to come out. And if I stick my thumb in there, I can get it between the plastic inserts. But I feel like when you're swimming, the plastic inserts are pretty tightly closed, which basically makes the drainage holes not that effective. But if they had something in on the plastic insert to hold them open, I feel like that could solve the problem. Finfolk, if you're watching, I don't know, do with that what you will. But that is what I have to say about the drainage. It is an issue. You can feel drag a good amount of the time, but if you have the Finis Shooter Monofin, it should work out pretty well for you, I think. I have been mermaiding since 2014, and I consider myself to be a pretty decent swimmer, and I can swim in this. If you wanted to flip the plastic insert around so the shorter part is going over the top of your foot, that might help it be more comfortable, but it's pretty alright for swimming. It definitely looks beautiful underwater, and in the footage that I have of it, aside from me being very floaty and having to try hard to stay down, which isn't helped by a neoprene tail, especially when the bubbles up, but it looks very pretty underwater swimming, and you can definitely swim in it. It's not impossible to swim in. Let's put this back down. So now let's talk about how much it was. This tail was $335 US before shipping, and it was about $351 after shipping. And that is pretty decent, honestly, for a neoprene tail. That's about middle of what they go for. It is a little bit expensive, But, you know, I feel like the quality of the materials and everything, it's pretty worth it. I don't think that it's obscene or anything like that, even with the stitching problems, which are annoying. Alright, so let's get down to my overall thoughts on this tail, the short version. Sorry I've been rambling through this entire video. I haven't scripted this. I just wrote some notes and put it like under the camera that I wanted to make sure I hit, and then the rest I've just kind of been doing off the top of my head. So, but overall thoughts on this tail. The wait times for Finfolk are kind of long. That was 3 months, but after they confirmed the order, but I feel like it was before that I placed the order and they didn't confirm it for a while. I'm not sure. But compared to the wait times that some people have for like silicone tails and other things, it's not that horrible. You just have to keep that in mind, because if you want to swim in your tail in the summer, you might want to get like a winter release one just to be sure that you get it in time, because I know that some people did not get their tails in time to swim in them last summer. I luckily did receive mine. As far as fit goes, I know some people have had problems with that, but I think that the fit of my tail is good. I took my measurements and got the tail that best fit those measurements, and it works pretty well for me. Stays where it's supposed to, does everything it's supposed to. Quality on these tails, something that you want to watch out for is that the fabric, or you might want to take a note of when deciding what neoprene tail you might want to buy if you're going for that, is that the fabric will stain if you do not clean it right away. Don't leave it on anything dirty, and the stitching does come apart very easily sometimes in some places. So you're going to have to watch out for that, and you might have to sew things back up yourself at some point. And for $335, you might not be okay with that, and that's fine. But, you know, it is a little bit annoying to me, but I think, but it's okay. Swimming in this, you definitely probably don't want this to be your first tail. If you've never swam in a tail before, I'd recommend you get a Finfolk fabric, not a Finfolk fabric tail, a Finfun fabric tail, not a Finfolk one. Because the Finfun ones are made of bathing suit material, they're much lighter, they're much less expensive, and it'll let you know if you like it. And they're also really great looking tails too. I have several of them, getting several more right now. And those are great. But if you are an experienced mermaid, then this should be not a real problem for you. I've tried it in the ocean and in ponds and in pools, and I've been able to, you know, get where I need to go and everything like that. If you are someone who tends to float, like just naturally, this will not help you sink. That is just a fact, and keep that in mind. And you will feel drag with this, because even though it has drainage holes, the drainage holes don't tend to stay open, I feel like, while swimming. So it takes a while to drain, and there's definitely going to be times you feel drag while swimming. But if you're an experienced mermaid, you can swim in this tail. It's alright. It's not the most unpleasant thing that you will do in your life. And make sure that you get a good monofin for it. I recommend the Finis Shooter, but I've also heard that the Linden adult monofins might work. I do want to test out that monofin at some point, but, you know, the shooters, don't get the foil. The shooter will do you better. And then this is about the price that neoprene tails tend to go no matter where you get them from. There's some that are a little cheaper, some that are a little more expensive, but this is like around the area where they tend to be, which is like $200 to $400. So overall, I definitely am glad that I own this tail. Overall, I do like having it. It is a pain in the butt to store occasionally, and the stitching has come apart in places, and it's a lot of work to take out and get into sometimes. with how hard it is to get your feet into the monofin sometimes, but that's also just my monofin. So it is a lot of work sometimes to maintain, but it is a good tail. It looks beautiful. I have enjoyed swimming in it. I have enjoyed owning it. I'm glad that I have it. I don't know if I would buy another one of these. If this one, like, broke and I didn't have it anymore, I would probably buy another one, but I don't feel like I need more than one neoprene tail necessarily. But I would buy from Finfolk, definitely, but you have to make sure that you watch out for the wait times. Just, like, know when you need this tail by, and know that the wait times might be long. And definitely keep in mind some of the quality things that I mentioned. But I feel like you could buy one of these. These are good quality tails for the most part. And I do like mine. I'm gonna say that I'm not gonna give it a star rating, but I'm gonna leave it at that. I like mine, and I would recommend that if this is the type of tail that you're looking for, the Finfolk ones are pretty good, and you can feel alright about buying one. So I think that's going to be all for now. I'm probably going to sometime in the future do a video on my whole mermaid collection. If you guys would like that, let me know. And then I'm also hoping to do some cartoon videos in the near future. Probably one about Miraculous Ladybug, maybe, ranking everyone's stats for, like, getting people akumatized and everything else, or who's been the most, other things like that. Some that I've been thinking about doing for a while. So I will see you guys next time, and bye.